Singh and Professor Deepika Malhotra for this nice FDP program. This is a very interesting theme, and this is the need of the hour. Okay, so we have several healthcare issues these days. Okay, like this pandemic and other problems, and how we can deal with these problems using artificial intelligence. So, so this is a very serious issue, and the theme of this FDP is very relevant. So today my lecture will be how we can deploy AI for these kinds of healthcare problems. So I share my slides. Is it visible,
Yes,
madam?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is very much visible, sir.
Okay, madam. Thank you very much. Okay. So I am now serving as associate professor in IIT Roorkee in Department of Computer Science and Engineering, and my publication and project details can be found in this parimol.iitr.ac.in. Parimol is the name of our lab where more than 10 PhD students, several postdocs, and master students are working on different applications of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So, during the lecture, if you have any doubts, please interrupt me so that we can clarify the doubts. If you still have more doubts, you can always send me a mails in this email ID partho@cs.iitr.ac.in. So these information are there in this footer of this slide. So my email ID is partho@cs.iitr.ac.in. So anytime you can send me mails for any doubts. So we will have two sessions. First one, I will discuss about brain computing interface, some introduction and how we can deploy it with some theory. And in the second session, we will see some hands-on how we can use machine learning with those BCI data. BCI means brain computing interface data. So second session, you will be also knowing how you can use these machine learning technologies on these data sets of EEG or BCI data for classifications or prediction. So the first session we have this AI for AI deployment for EEG analysis. Okay, so we will be discussing this healthcare sector, how we can use this artificial intelligence. So it will be divided into two parts. In first, we'll discuss how AI is involved in healthcare and how it can improve our system. Next part, we'll discuss how this EEG, that is brain computing interface, can be used for this healthcare analysis. So EEG is mostly used for brain understanding. So with that signal, that is EEG, how we can predict the disease related to brain. So, as you know, this healthcare is a booming sector in many countries, like third world countries or other. Okay, so where the healthcare is not at all organized, there are many scattered parts, hospitals, colleges, this private sectors, or this government hospitals. These are all in scattered way. So how we can involve this AI so that this will be in organized. So as you know that when we want to involve or improve some sector, there are actually several challenges. So challenges could be, for example, there will be some rising costs, and there could be some poor quality of analysis. Okay, so for example, in some several countries, we have this health sector where the treatment is not proper, it is not of good quality, and there are huge cost involved in that treatment. Okay, and sometimes it is also very complex to get the treatment. Okay, so here the data analysis or artificial intelligence could help improve the system. So this in artificial intelligence you have this data mining, text mining, big data analytics, signal processing, image processing. There are different kinds of domains are there which may be involved by this healthcare professional for disease predictions or diagnosis to improve the service quality. Okay, it is uh, noted by a survey that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Service (CMS) use data analytics to reduce the hospital readmission rate. Okay, and they avert $115 million in fraud payment. Okay, so when, for example, some patients go to the system, this healthcare for this treatment, they do not need to go again and again. Okay, so AI can give proper feedback that what will be the prediction, and accordingly the patients, if they want, they can go to through this treatment. So data analytics or machine learning can help to improve the healthcare sector with quantitative and qualitative analysis. Quantitative means your uh, the number of patients or the cost. This will be reduced. Okay, and the quality of the treatment will be far better. So I think you have seen that using AI we can predict the cancerous disease. So given some images, okay, so for example we have some images from skin, and then we may use machine learning or AI technology to understand whether the image is having cancerous cell or not. Okay, so similarly there could be other diagnosis which could involve AI. So, for example, we can have some chest pains, okay, like symptoms like chest pain or cough or some other symptoms, or and then we go through some uh, and go through some uh, report, okay, this blood report or urine report, these kinds of biochemical analysis, and those reports can also be considered for the analysis. Similarly, we can also use that the patient, does he smoke or he is alcoholic or not, what is the age, gender. These are the input features, and through these features from the patients, we can involve machine learning or AI for predictions whether the patient is positive or negative. Okay, so AI can assist the physicians for better clinical services. Okay, so if, for example, if the clinician is fresh, okay, he is not that experienced, he does not have that much of um, practice, he didn't do much practice, okay, earlier. So AI, which actually involves with the data, and if the model is ready, so with those symptoms and biochemical analysis or other features, the AI can predict what will be the problem, what is the diagnosis, okay, what the patient should do. So the human judgment or this clinician can be replaced with our AI system, okay, and this can provide 24 by 7 availability, okay, because anytime we can use our AI system for understanding the problem. So, for example, nowadays you see that we are using mobile to understand this BP or the sugar or these kinds of analysis, right? So, we give some input to the smartphone, and the smartphones they um, process those data through some cloud computing, and then they predict, okay, so what the patients should do. So by this way the patients can avail the early diagnosis, okay, so if he is going to have some strokes or he is having some cancerous disease serious problems or not, these kinds of analysis. Okay, so by this the diagnostic uh, treatment will be faster, okay, and there will be a lot of possibilities that the errors will be reduced, okay, so because the human judgment can involve several errors, but with this AI, when the model is very good with lots of data, it is model, then the error will be less. So when we discuss about this AI deployment in healthcare, so usually these go through this workflow. So in this workflow, we first collect the signal or image. Signal could be, for example, if I am having a heart disease, so I give my ECG data. Okay. So similarly, if I am having some brain related disease, so I'll provide my EEG data. Okay. So these are some signals. So similarly, I can provide some images. Okay. So images like if there are some problems in mouth, in some cancerous disease or not, in the tongue or inside of the mouth, so we can take some photo, and that photo we have this image, and we can understand that whether there are cancerous cells are there, okay, in that image. So we have these kinds of data, okay, so that we can collect ourselves, or we can go to the hospital to provide the data, to get the data. And when we have the data, along with we have some history of our uh, uh, of the patients, okay, so for example where that the patient what he is doing, whether he is having smoking or alcohol these habits or not, or what is the age, gender information, where does he belong, okay, so it prone to that kind of disease or not. Okay, so these kinds of data are also there along with the patient's data. Okay, so we have different kinds of data. One part is the patient's related data, another is the how the patient uh, where the patient actually stays, okay, the the region, or for example the other background informations. And with all this information we use some machine learning or classifications. So here we extract some features and we deploy our artificial intelligence like classifications. For example, it could be support vector machines, multi-layer perceptrons, random forest, deep learning. Okay, these kinds of classification tools are there which can be applied on those data, and they will predict what to do, what actions need to be taken. So there they can help those practitioners that okay, so there are so for example this disease of high severity, so the patients need to go need to have the treatment urgently. Okay, so this is the flow, okay, workflow of this um, AI in healthcare. So when I said about this data collection, that I mentioned that some of the data, it could be your pharmacy data. Okay, so for example, if with your card, so you are, for example, in a you are registered with Aadhaar or some other cards, and then if you give this card to those hospital, then from that card your personal history or the history of your diseases will be collected. Okay, and after that we can also know that what kind of medicines you are now going through. Okay, so these are some data, and then laboratory report, radiology report, okay, some other reports. Okay, so whatever data you have, so those data will be used later for the statistical analysis, machine learning analysis. Okay, so you have now this AI in healthcare where the data is one very important pillar. So we need to have data. Okay, as you know, this in artificial intelligence or machine learning, data is very important. AI is mostly data driven. If you have good amount of data, then artificial intelligence will provide very good prediction. If your data is less or the data is not good, means it is erroneous data, then the prediction may not be good. So with this introduction of this AI, so let us see that how we may use this artificial intelligence for brain related disease diagnosis. So we'll be discussing this EEG, that is electroencephalogram, as brain computing interface. So it means that we have our brain, there could be several signals in the brain, and we want to visualize, we want to understand what the brain is doing with some interface. Okay, so we want to develop one interface or a program which will say that okay, now your brain wants to have rest, or you the patient is having this some depression. Okay, so this interface will actually reflect the inner state of our brain. Okay, so with this so in BCI there are actually different kinds of devices. Okay, through which we can collect the signals. Either we can take the signals or we can get the image. Okay, so for example, if we are talking about the signals, that we have EEG, electroencephalograms. Okay, so it is similar to your ECG. So when, for example, the patients go to a hospital for this heart related disease, so some electrodes are placed in the chest, and then the ECG records are taken. Okay, so similarly with EEG also, some electrodes are there which are placed on the brain skull, and then we collect the signals. There are some other devices like fMRI or MEG. These kinds of devices are there which provides you the data in terms of images or slices. Okay, so there could be signals or images which are taken from the brain, and by that medium, image or signals, we want to understand the inner state of the brain. Okay, so the aspect of person's cognitive state, what he is thinking, or what is the problem, whether he is in a depression, he is in a happy state, or he is in a sad state. Okay, so these kinds of cognitive state we want to understand using this DCI. So it could be signals or it could be some images. So we have this biosignal, and we want to develop one BCI, brain computing interface, which will tell us that what the brain is doing. Okay, so whether he's in a happy state or sometimes he's in a sad state. Okay, so you know that some patients are there in a depression, that they are more on this sad state. Okay, so this kinds of interface actually will provide the information that how long and or when the patient is there in the negative state. So we want to understand the person's cognitive state. So I'll show you one demo from this BCI application, that how this BCI, this interface can provide the uh, can uh, can show you what the brain is doing. Okay, so some activity if we are doing in our brain, then how it is reflecting. So here you see the one guy, he's blinking. Okay, he is doing some action, and there are some electrodes. He has just kept it in his forehead, and when he is blinking, then through that interface there is a signal. Okay, so he is blinking, and with that signal the motor is running. Okay, so when there is a blink, so the motor runs. So you see again, so when he is blinking, the motor runs. So this signal comes from this brain. Okay, so we are blinking, we are doing some activities like blinking or jaw clenching or speaking, or even we are writing. So these kinds of signals we are working in our brain, and we want to understand that what we are doing in actually, and accordingly some output or prediction will be there. So EEG or electroencephalogram measures the activity of large number of neurons. So when we put our some electrodes on our skull, so that actually collects the signal of those neurons in that part of the brain. So as you know, there are billions of neurons in the brain, and they are continuously exchanging the message, okay, from this action to dendrite. Okay, so if there are some activities or like imagination, thinking, or some actions, then that part means the brain will be uh, doing some uh, work. Okay, so that means it will exchange those informations either fast way or in a slow way. Okay, there will be some rhythm, okay, in that signal. So with that signal, we want to capture that signal from the brain. So how we are doing it? We have this electrode which collects the voltage difference or potential difference at the skull in microvolt range, because it is very low. Okay, the signal is of very low voltage. So we collect the voltage difference in a microvolt range, and after that we amplify. Okay, so later with this interface you will see that the signals actually is of higher amplitude, and this voltage traces or BCI can be done, as I was saying, that could be done with fMRI or MEG. Okay, so fMRI is, for example, functional magnetic resonance imaging or magnetoencephalography. So where these devices are very huge, and I think you might have seen these kinds of devices in private hospitals or in government hospitals, and their maintenance cost is also huge. And the patients, when they go through these devices, these sensors actually collect the signals. Okay, so signals of the this blood flow in the brain. Okay, so they take the slices. Okay, so in the each uh, part, in each in the brain in each slice. Okay, so first you see this video that in some parts at some z axis or x axis, they will see that okay, whether there are workflow at that time frame or not. Okay, so based on this information, they develop they generate the image, and later with that image they analyze what is the problem. So these are actually traditional approaches, MEG or fMRI, but nowadays people are using these EEG devices for this disease diagnosis, okay, related to brain. So I show you another video here. You see this guy is making blinking, jaw clenching, or eyes closing. Okay, so he's doing three different activities, and you see the signal is changing. Okay, so according to his action, when he's making the jaw clenching, then the signal will be different. When he's blinking, the signal will be different. Okay, and you see here these are the EEG signals. Okay, so you see these EEG signals here. So these electrodes give you these signals, and if we want to relate these EEG signals with this brain activities, this neurons activities, that how they are exchanging this information, we can show it using a heat map. Okay, you see that when there is a high amplitude in that signal, then the heat map is actually very large. That means that time the exchange of information is very huge. Okay, so that means the voltage is very large. Okay, so we get these signals, and once we receive these signals, we use this machine learning. Okay, so let us discuss a little more about these acquisitions of this EEG. So these EEG signals could be acquired in one of these two ways: invasive or non-invasive. In invasive, the electrodes are usually implanted in the brain, and these the data are collected, the signals are collected. Okay, so by implantation, so actually this is little scary. So nowadays, usually this invasive kind of sensors are not there. Uh, People collect the data with this non-invasive device, where we use one helmet kind of thing. Okay, so there will be some scalp surface where there are several holes are there, and we place some electrodes through these holes which will connect to the skull. Okay, and there we if these electrodes are connected to the skull, then we get the signals, and these signals will be recorded. Okay, you see here that this guy is connecting the electrodes in the um, to the scalp surface. Sometimes these are dry electrodes, sometimes these are wet. So when it is dry electrode, you do not need to place any gel. If these are wet electrodes, so to get the connectivity better, we place some gel. Okay, so which will actually um, get the signals better. So I show you one video which we uh, recorded in our lab for collecting the data. Okay, so this is a device of 160 electrodes. Okay, so there is a provision of placing 160 electrodes in this skull, and then this guy is placing some gels through this injection, and means it is not there is no injection to the brain. Okay, just is placing the gels so that the connectivity will be faster. when the when the electrode is connected, then it will show with a green signal. Okay, these are GUI device coming with this EEG. Okay, device, this is the GUI softwares are coming with the EEG device. So whenever you purchase some EEG device, so these kinds of software will be available, through which you can see that what are the signals, okay, of different electrodes. Now this guy, he's if one electrode is connected, you see that there are some change in the signals. Okay, and now that user is asked to blink the eyes. So when you will blink the eyes, you will see that there is a change in the amplitude. So when he blinks the eyes, so there are some change in the amplitude. Okay, so this waveform, you see there are the difference between this peak to the valley, it's high when compared to the signal when he is not blinking. Their rhythm will also be different. Okay, this is in the F4. I'll discuss what does it mean by F4. So when we place some this skull device on the brain, there are some international systems by which we place the electrodes. This is called 1020 systems. This means that from the left ear to the right ear, the placements of the electrodes will be such that the gap between two electrodes will be 10%, 20%, 20%. Okay, so like this. Similarly, from the Nasian regions to this Indian region, the difference will be 10%, 20%, 20%, and 20-20-10. So this is the for this 10-20 system. How we can place the electrodes on the skull surface. And when we place the electrodes in the left side, these are usually in odd number, and when we place the electrodes in the right side, these are called this even number. So F4 means the electrode was placed in the right side of the brain. And this F, as you see that some of these electrodes are named with F, then FP, O, P. Okay, so these are naming convention according to the brain parts. Okay, so as you know, in the brain we have these different parts like frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, temporal lobe. Okay, so when the electrodes are placed in the frontal lobe, so these are called FP. When it is there in the parietal, then it will be called as the F, okay, or P, sorry. If it is there in the occipital, then it will be O. Okay, so like this, you will have this electrodes with their different names. When it will be there in the frontal, then it is actually F. Okay, so when I say this F4, that means the electrode is placed in the frontal part and in the right side. And you note that another thing, that in this in the brain, different parts are actually responsible for different activities. So for example, this occipital lobe is responsible for our vision or color perception. So if we want to understand that how our brain is functioning for image, when the user actually watches some movies or sees some image, then how he is reacting, how his brain is reacting. So we'll place the electrodes in the occipital lobe. Similarly, according to their activity, the purpose of the um, work, so you have to place the electrodes in that region. So we can use this EEG for different diagnosis purpose, and these are being used in now in AIMS, like in Delhi, Rishikesh, or many hospitals, and also in private hospitals in abroad, of course. So these are used for brain tumor analysis, stroke, sleeping disorder, epilepsy, brain death. Okay, so the different kinds of diagnosis purpose. So I'll discuss some of these uh, problems, that how we can handle uh, this diagnosis using this EEG. So when we place our electrodes, we get the signals. As you have seen, we were recording those signals. So if some patients keep for 5 minutes, then we will get the signals for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, maybe it will be of 300 seconds. And sometimes because of the FPS, because how many frames per seconds you want the signals, okay, that according to the resolutions, you will get different signals per second. Okay, so for each electrode I will get this signals. So when we record these EEG signals, the 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 data will be seen like this. Okay, so for example, it is the first time frame, this is the second time frame, okay, third, fourth, like this. And we have used 14 electrodes for collecting the data. So if we have 14 electrodes, that means each electrode will give you the signal in each time frame. So the first electrode, for example, it could be in frontal part, this gives me this record. Then second time frame, it will give me this record. And then third time this one, fourth time, like this. Okay, so if I am using for 400 time frame, so I will get 400 information or 400 data from this electrode. So if I am having some F4 electrodes, okay, so for example, if it is the F4 electrodes, so with this F4 electrodes, I will collect 400 data. Okay, so this is 4256, and second time it is 4261. Okay, these are the some numbers. Okay, so which we are getting the signals.
So there is one question,
Yes.
like which one is more efficient, like in case of EEG, whether it be an event-related potential or we can say resting state EEG, like for the diagnosis.
Okay. So yeah, it depends on the problem. So in some disease diagnosis, people are asked to relax, and we collect the EEG signals. At some points, for example, in some cases, we collect the EEG signals like with this evoke potential. Okay, so we show something. For example, it could be some mental arithmetics. We ask that, okay, that we give some simple addition. Okay, so 4 plus
Okay,
5 or
sir,
20
like
plus
if
30.
so,
Okay,
just
so
if we
how
talk,
he is thinking. Okay,
yeah,
so
okay.
yes, madam.
Sir, if we talk about epilepsy, so I think most of the researchers are working on like resting state EEG. And if
Yes,
we talk about autistic or some behavioral type of disorder orders, so they are mostly working on event-related potential.
yes,
So I have read some studies and they conclude that event-related potential is much more efficient than resting state EEG.
yes,
So is
yes.
there any fact? So you can please tell me, like,
Yes, yes. Actually, yeah, resting state, you do not actually stimulate any of the part of the brain. Okay, so
yeah,
all the inner muscles and whatever your imagination, everything actually are involved. Okay, so you when you get the signals, so your these muscle movements or your imaginations all are involved in the signals. So you do not get much in, you get some information, of course you can decode as well. But when you use some evoke potential based data, so it is stimulating one part. Okay, so according to, for example, whether this part is active. For example, you want to collect the data, for example, your color perception or vision related. Okay, so you show some image or you show some video, or if you, for example, you want to you give some audio, and then how he is reacting. Okay, so there actually it is with the stimulators, with the stimulus, the brain actually, that part of the brain will be functioning more. And then if we record that signal, then the diagnosis will be better, because we are uh, stimulating that part of that brain, and the other parts will be there, but those will be less. Okay, the signals will be less compared to that part of the brain.
So, sir, we can conclude like event-related potential. Like if we use for like if we use event-related potential, it will be very efficient as compared to resting state.
it
So we
is
can say
it is
like this.
it is better. Yes, it is
Okay,
better than
okay,
this resting state.
okay, okay. So thank you.
Can I have
So
a question, Professor Partha?
yes, yes, sure, madam.
Yeah. You sewed some electrodes through to which you injected some gel to capture it.
Yes.
Um, may I know these electrodes are indigenous made in your lab or you purchase some readily available?
No, no, yeah, we didn't develop, okay, anything. We didn't buy this. These hardwares are not from our system,
And
our
you
lab.
purchased,
We have
may I know
purchased.
what is that brand? It is something
Yeah.
like Neurosky or Emotive or what is
Yes,
it?
yes, 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 sir. So there are different companies are there for this
Right.
EEG. So it depends on your requirement. Some sensors are coming with this one electrode, some signals, some sensors are coming with 14 electrodes, some are with 256. Okay, so that's a range from 1 to 256. So one, I think it is from Neurosky. Okay, so that is
Okay.
actually very cheap, with which comes with I
14,
think
14 electron
10,000 or
Neurosky.
8,000. Yes, with one single electrode. There are this whatever I am showing here. This 14 electrode. This we recorded with this emotive Epoch Plus. This cost around 1,000 US dollar. That is 70,000. Okay, Indian rupees.
And in that, the software what comes, that
Yeah.
is again continuous or again for use specific, it is having some license.
No, I think whenever we bought those hardware, so those softwares are included with those hardwares.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So now we are using one device that is of 160 electrode. Okay, and we are that is, the company name is ActiChamp. Okay, so here
Sorry,
also ActiChamp.
ActiChamp. Okay.
Yes, 160 electrode, and that cost around 75 lakhs.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
there are also devices that I was saying 256 electrode that will cost more than crore, okay, or 2 crore. So that's the
Oh,
range.
yeah.
Okay, so this how the dense you want. If you want one on a sensor with one
Right, right.
electrodes or
DCI, I
few
think
electrodes
14 is also good enough for interfacing, brain
for
computer
prototype
interface.
development or
Yes, yes.
lab work, 14
Yeah.
sensor device are enough, sufficient.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yes. So as I was saying that when you place this EEG device on your the brain scalp, and you keep it for 300 seconds or 400 seconds, and if you have 14 electrodes, so you see that these are actually 14 electrodes data, okay, in the first time frame. And then you have this 8 time frame, you will also have 14 electrodes. That means if you have this F4, O2, FP. Okay, so these are the different electrodes. Each in each time frame, it's actually giving you some data. Okay, so if you want, if you plot this, for example, this F4 signal, I'm not sure whether it is F4 or not, but if you plot, so you will get signals like this. Okay, so there will be some waveforms. Okay, so for each electrodes, if you record the signals, it will show you this sinusoidal forms. So you have different rhythms for different activities of the user. So if the user is very active, there will be very high frequency components along with low frequency components. And if the user is, for example, in the sleeping stage, so he's a more on relaxed stage, then the signals will be having more on this low frequency components. Okay, so this high activity, that means this what he, when he's doing some actions, so his brain is actually functioning, okay, lot. So and then his muscle movements will also be there. So those are basically a high frequency component, and those will be missing in the uh, relaxed state. Okay, so you see here, this when the user is in deep sleep or in asleep, so you will have more on the smooth signals. And then according to this signals rhythm, so we can divide the signals into five different frequency range. Okay, so this is first one is delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma. When in if the signal contains some this frequency components which are less than 4 hertz. Okay, so that means these are all low frequency components, and there is no high frequency components, and the user is in a relaxed state. And when the user is actually very active, there will be more on beta or gamma. Okay, these kinds of frequency components. So now when we collect the data and we understand that, okay, so these signals will have these different frequency components, and now we want to process these signals. Okay, so this data could be having some noise. Okay, so for example, there are some electrical appliances are there, like ACs or power supplies are going on. So those signals will also influence your EEG signals. Okay, and there could be some noise. So we want to remove those kinds of noise. Okay, so for example, this any data in speech data or any other, for example, signal you collect, so you try to do some noise cleaning or filtering. Okay, so these kinds of filtering will help you that to get the signals which comes from the brain. But you may lose also some information from the brain, what you acquired, but that will uh, that is also a part of your problem. Okay, so you cannot remove fully the noise, or you cannot capture fully your brain related data. Okay, so there you have these different pre-processing techniques are there which actually can help you. So for example, we have this moving average. Moving average means, for example, in this COVID time, you might have seen that every day what is the number of patients affected, and I can make some average. Okay, this 3 days average, and then 3 days average means whatever data are there in 3 days, I just uh, make an average of this 3 day count and play, um, say that this is the data of first day, day one. Okay, so for every day I am making the previous day, that day, and the next day's data and make an average. So this will actually remove some of the noise. Okay, so for example, in some day that is a high, very high number of patients, which may be some noise. Okay, so this kind of moving average can help you to remove these kinds of noise. Or there are some filters like low pass, high pass, or band pass filters which can also help. So for example, if you know that electrical appliances are having some specific frequency signals, and if we know that frequency component of that signal, and we can remove that frequency from that signal, so we can use some low pass filters or high pass filters. If the signal, if the electrical appliances is having, for example, the signals of some F, okay, like this is the frequency, and then in the some band pass filter, okay, so we will allow those signals which do not contain that frequency component. Okay, so in that way we can remove some of the noise. So after that, we may use this little signal decompositions, okay, like frequency Fourier transform or wavelet transform. These are actually some um, signal based technologies which decompose the signal into different bands. Okay, so for the, as I was saying, that we have these different frequency components, low frequency components less than 4 hertz or 4 to 7 hertz. So in discrete wavelet transform or Fourier transform, we can actually decompose the signal into their frequency component. So if we have a signal, a original signal like this, so then with this this will be the gamma, beta, alpha, theta, and you have some, yeah, delta signals. So you'll see that in these signals you will have almost this low frequency components. In theta you will have this 4 to 8 hertz. Okay, so only those frequency components of 4 to 8 hertz will be there in that signals. So we are decomposing these signals into different frequency components. Each signal will have the frequency range which belongs to this range. Okay, so accordingly we can decompose. You will see some more uh, this preprocessing in the hands-on. And once we have the signals after this noise removal or this frequency decompositions, let us consider that we have these signals, and now we want to extract the features for classifications. Okay, so as I was saying in the beginning that for AI we have the data. Okay, so we collected the data, and from those data now we want to extract some features. Okay, so now let us say that we have this feature. Okay, so we just we have these signals after this noise removal and this frequency decomposition. Okay, so we now take any part of this signal. So and then we see that, okay, so we have this for example, if the signal starts from 50 to 125, so we will have the different time frames. So for example, in this time, in this duration, we have 100 time frame. Okay, in 100 time frame we will get the values. Okay, as I have shown you that what are the values of each electrode in that time frame. Okay, so now you see that if we have a window, okay, so the user has given the data for example, for 140 time frame. I'm just using for 20 time frame and get the features. So later I will use a another window. So maybe the window will move here, and then I will collect the signals. So this window will shift. Okay, so every 20 milliseconds, and then we'll collect the features. What are the features we will collect? So that I will discuss in the next slide. So we are having this 20 milliseconds time frame. It could be 20, it could be 40, or any other. Okay, so according to your experiments. So we have this durations, and in these durations we have different samples, and then we will collect the data from those samples in that duration. Now the features, as I was saying, this when we collect the features from this duration, and then we can apply the classification. So the feature is very important for classification. Classifications are like support vector machines, neural network, random forest. If you extract good features, then you can separate whether the patient is for example in a happy mode or sad mode. Okay, so the features will be in the one side of the line. Okay, if the features are not good, then the all these samples will be scattered, so you cannot actually make a uh, in this partition of these samples, data samples. Okay, so you may consider that when we get the signals. Okay, so if you do not use this moving average or 3 days or three times this if you I have said that with this window, whatever signals you have, you can collect them for features. I can also take, for the simplicity, I'm just explaining, for each time frame I have some data. Okay, so this samples data, like this is the sample, and next time the amplitude is small lower, and then the third time it is very small. So these are the amplitude, so these are some values, okay, some numbers. So these numbers, if we place, okay, so uh, for example, if it is a happy state or it is a sad state, these numbers will always be there in the good fit, for in the one side if the data are from happy state. Okay, these numbers will always be there in the one side. If the features are not good, then this data will be random, so we cannot place any separator in those data samples. Okay. So now we can extract some features. So if I, as I was saying, that I can uh, get this, I have this window and I have some samples. So from this, for example, I am having 4 samples. So from these 4 samples, the features could be root mean square. Okay, root mean square means I'm just taking their square information and then making an average. Okay, and then having this square root. Okay, this is the feature of the signals of the samples in that window. I can make also a standard deviation. I can make an energy features. I can find out the mean features, okay, of these 4 samples in that window. So these are the features, very simple. Okay, so whatever samples I have in that duration, I am extracting these features. So mean is I'm just making an average, okay, of these 4 samples. Energy is I'm just making a square term and then making an average. Okay, summation. Then root mean square, I am find first subtracting from this mean and then doing an average, and then after that there will be a square root. Okay, so like this we extract the features from each window. Okay, so we extract the feature from each window, and then for the duration, we have this duration, and then we collect this, extract this feature, and then we process for classification. Similarly, next time we'll extract features from another window and we get the signals. Now with this background, so let us discuss some applications, how we can use this easy data for classification. So let us consider one simple problem that, for example, now we are there in this virtual classrooms and I do not see any of the participants. And I want to know what are the age and gender distributions of the participants. So what I will do, I can collect, okay, some data, that is EEG data from the users, and then I make a machine learning model. Okay, so in the offline, B means before I collect from you, so I have I collected lots of data from different users, and then what I'm doing, I am making an EEG data set, and then I extract some pre-processing feature extractions and make a classifier model. It could be age classifier model or gender classifier model. Okay, and then later, if you use this EEG data, means if you are wearing this EEG skull and I record this EEG signals, so that EEG signals, this test examples, so you give me the data, I use the pre-processing and then apply the feature extraction, and I apply that model, age classifier model or gender classifier model, and this model will tell me that, okay, what is the um, possibility that, okay, so what is the age group of that user, or whether he is a male or female. Okay, so this, without seeing you, I can understand from that EEG signal that whether the user is male or female or what is the age group. So it is similar to, for example, some smartphones are there. If you want to take the photo with that smartphone, and then says you that how old you look like. Okay, so whether you look like 30 years old or 25 years old. Okay, so something like this. So with your EEG data, I want to predict what is the age or gender. So how we are doing it? So we collect the data from different users first. So we collect from 60 individuals with different age groups, and the age groups actually vary from 6 to 55 years, and gender also varies, male and female. And what we are doing, we collect the data with this in the relaxed and eyes closed position. Okay, so we ask the users to close their eyes, and after that, when they close their eyes, we collect the signals. Okay, so you see in our data set we have this different users from different age groups. For example, 6 to 10 years, the users there are 10 users, and 5 male, 5 females. And then 40 to 55 age group, you have this 10 users, 6 male and 4 female. And we want to do, this is the male or female, and we also want to say that what is the um, age group. Okay, so I'm not saying that it is you are 27 or 28 years, but I will say that okay, you are young, or you are adult, or very old. Okay, so like this. Okay, some distinct class. So if we get the data with this mean, standard deviation, root mean square features that I was saying, so actually if you have for the male or female, okay, so two class, so male data will be in one side of the separator, and female data should be there in the other side of the separator. So that's how this machine learning works. Okay, so we will extract those features like this, and then apply a classifier. So here we can use, for example, this random forest, support vector machine, these kinds of classifier. Here I think we use this random forest classifier for this age classification and gender classification. So you see that with this alpha signals, okay, so and this delta signal, that is the less than 4 hertz. Okay, so that's with that signals we can classify the data with this gender as 95% accuracy, and age will be around less than 80% accuracy. Okay, so these are the performance. Okay, we may use some deep learning architectures. Okay, so as you know, this nowadays this deep learning outperforms the traditional machine learning architectures. So we can also use this deep learning architectures like long short-term memory, recurrent neural network, or stacked LSTM BLSTM layer. So we have used this stacked LSTM BLSTM layers for this age and gender classifications. And you see the results that if we use this simple LSTM, okay, long short-term memory. This is one deep learning framework. The accuracy for highest accuracy we are getting 96.35 for gender classification, and age accuracy we are getting around 89.5. With this deep LSTM BLSTM architectures, the accuracy is higher. So gender accuracy is 97.5, and age accuracy is 93.7. Okay, so like this. So when you use these deep learning architectures, usually the performance is better. And when we apply this deep learning architectures, we do not extract any features, root mean square, mean features. Okay, these features are not required in deep learning framework. Deep learning framework extract the features which are relevant, which it thinks these are good. Okay, so as some of you know this deep learning, so here it doesn't require to extract the features. But when we apply in random forest or support vector machine, we extract those features. Okay, these are handmade features, hand designed features. And for example, we extract this mean features, standard deviation features, and we apply the classification. So here it's another framework. This is called this neurophone. Here, what we are doing. So this is one evoke related potentials (ERP). So the user is shown one image in his mobile. Okay, so it could be music video, or it's for example this he requires some service. Okay, so he's a patient. His brain is functioning, but his other limbs are not working properly. Okay, so in that case, here the services are shown in the mobile. He has to visualize, and then accordingly there will be an alarm. Okay, so we have done this experiment with these 9 different services. Okay, music, he wants to listen music, he wants to watch movies, he wants to play, or he wants some to call the doctor. Okay, so the framework remains same. So we have a data set, means we collected the data from some users, and we in the data sets we extract the features. Okay, and then we use a classifier, and given a new data we fed this data into the classifier, and we predict that what service he wants. So we have tested with these 9 different services, and in average, we received 69% accuracy. And you see that if he wants to listen music, the accuracy is 75%, helpline 75% accuracy. Okay, so these are the frameworks so through which we can actually predict the cognitive state of the user. Okay, so from this EEG signals, we can understand that what is the age, gender, or what he wants to visualize, what he is thinking. Okay, what he is imagining. Okay, at that point. So other applications that actually are being used for healthcare, like monitoring the depth of anesthesia. Okay, so we place some electrodes. So you might see in the hospitals, and there are some meters which actually understands that. Okay, so what is the depth of the anesthesia? So how long he will sleep more? Okay, so we can also analyze the sleep disturbance. Okay, so some people they have problems for sleeping properly. So these also could be analyzed using this EEG analysis. And then brain function monitoring. Then if the brain death situation, okay, so the brain is not functioning at all, so we can understand from these EEG signals whether these are really not working or not. So detection of brain tumors, epileptic seizure predictions, all these kinds of brain related diseases are actually nowadays, these are all being diagnosed with this EEG. Here you see this emotion detections. We are having several projects from this brain computing interface. One Spark project that is from MHRD is there, where we want to predict the depression of the users. So we want to first understand the emotion of the patient, and after that, uh, and then if the users are having some ruminations effects, so that also could be um, uh, recorded in our using our EEG analysis. So for example, if the user is happy, the signals will show that okay, the user is happy. So if the user is in a sad state or in angry state, so it says some simple emotion analysis. Okay, from this balance we can understand. Okay, so what is the emotion? So the rumination is that this is the state where a person completes on self-related and often negatively balanced thoughts and finds it difficult to disengage from them. So he is always engaged with his uh, historical negative data, or on this other data where he suffered. Okay, and then it is very difficult to disengage from them. Okay, that's called this ruminations. So we can analyze these kinds of uh, diagnosis, these kinds of problem using this EEG. What we do, we develop some for example, boarding games. Okay, so some numbers are coming, so then I just need to say that okay, it's a positive or negative, or if it is a zero or not. Okay, some numbers. And when he is playing for long duration, at some point, what will happen? He will be engaged with his negative thoughts. Okay, that time actually those EG will reflect that how much he is engaged with those negative thoughts. Okay, so those are actually some lab-based analysis for this depression's predictions. And people are working also for stroke predictions and then rehabilitations. Okay, rehabilitation, for example, as I was showing, for example, this that when this evoke related potential, that when he is imagining something and then we want to give the service. Similarly, if someone is in wheelchair and then he wants to control the wheelchair or other objects, so he will just visualize that whether he wants to go straight, left direction or right directions, and then accordingly uh, with the EEG data we can apply some machine learning and we see that we understand that what is the uh, cognitive state, what he wants, and then accordingly the movements will be followed. Okay, so this will be there in a wheelchair control or environment control. So for example, I want to switch on off switch on or switch off lights, or I want to close the doors. Okay, so just imagining something, it will actually work. Okay, so I'm just imagining and then our EEG electrodes will give me the signals, and I just develop one interface which will say that okay, I am imagining of closing the door, and then automatically the doors will be closed. Okay, so these are now future of this machine learning or brain computing interface. Okay, so there are lots of things people are doing. So for example, if someone wants to speak, so if he is visualizing, accordingly we can translate what he is imagining. So there are several data sets available. Okay, so if you are interested in some of this EEG related work, so from our lab also we have developed two data sets, and these are available online. Okay, so in my website that I said, parimol.iitr.ac.in. So one data set is there for EEG signals and neuromarketing. So for example, someone wants to purchase some product, whether he is really interested to purchase that product or not, he is interested or he likes or dislikes. Okay, this is one simple data set. And another data set is envision speech recognition. Okay, so whatever he is imagining, so can we understand? So here we keep 30 objects. Okay, we show 30 object, one of these 30 objects in the monitor, and he has to imagine this or he visualize, when he visualize that object, and then we record that EEG signals. So the objective is, from these EEG signals you have to predict what object he visualized. So there are 30 different objects are there. So some are alphabets, letters, some are objects like cars, flowers, animals. Okay, so there are 30 different objects and EEG signals, and the objective is to identify the object from the EEG data. In others sites also you may receive many data sets. In Kaggle, it is one of the competitive websites. There also you'll find several data sets of EEG, and in many places, okay, many research labs, they also avail these EEG data sets. Okay, so I would like to thank some of the organizations which supported my research. Thank you. So this is my website where you find the data sets and the publication related to EEG as well. And you may always contact me in this email address. Now, if you have some questions or doubts, please ask me. I'll be happy to answer your or clarify your doubts.
So there is one question from Stanzen. How gender affect the membrane potential?
Okay. So see, we can get the signals in the relaxed state as well. Okay, So I think here in our problem, in our data sets, in our dataset, we collected the signals when the user was in relaxed and eyes closed, okay, inform state. See, when we are working with these hardwares, see, these hardwares are not that very sophisticated, okay. These are still in uh, this under development, okay. So these are not in a very good stage, okay. So you can collect and you can work. If you have a very good system which can give you good data, then you can use this. You do not need any relaxed or stimulus for getting the signals, okay. As we, our devices sensors are not that good because there are could be several noise or um, from internally or externally. So we want the data collection to be in a controlled environment. Controlled environments that the user is actually sitting in a relaxed position. There will be no noise, and in that environment only we get the data. If you think that, okay, I will go to the market and then I record the signals and then I will analyze, so this will not work, okay. So now the present hardware technologies are not that efficient, okay, not that good. So we have to use this lab setup to collect the data, as we do not have that good technology. So we use this relaxed or controlled environment for these signals, and after that we do this analysis. If our system, these hardware systems are good, then you do not need anything. You can collect anytime the signal, and you can actually predict the same. You can predict the same results. It is possible. Okay. Is it correct? Is it okay, madam? Hello. Hello.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is no more query in the chat box. So, is there any query from the participant
Okay.
side? Okay, there is no more queries. So, thank you so much, sir, for such a nice talk. And you have very well explained the fundamental concepts of like AI technology, then the basic data modalities like EEG, like how EEG is currently using for disease diagnosis. So, I think that will be very useful for the researchers to carry their research in this field. So, thank you once again, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. And in the next session, actually, you will be seeing that how we can use this EEG data and for machine learning, and we can predict, okay, some of the problems
Okay.
like whether he's blinking the eyes or he's doing some activities. So this could be shown to you in the hands-on.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
So, thank you. So, we will join in the next session. So, that session will start around 2:30 p.m. So, there is a 1 hour break. So, I would like to request all the participants to kindly turn on their camera. It's a request to all the participants. Thank you, everyone. So, now we will join at 2:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
bye.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
sir.
Okay,
Thank
see you in some other events. Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.